Welcome to the celebration of Dr. Goher Arani, her legacy with the Meher Free Dispensary. My name is Sean. I'm on the board of directors for the Meher Fund. And the Meher Fund, who we are essentially, as many of you probably know, are just Baba lovers in support of the Meher Free Dispensary. I'd like to open with two quotes that I have. This first one I really like. This was Eric Jeswala's response to the question of who is Meher Baba, as directed by Baba himself. And Eric said, "He is the one who provokes this question in you, the being of all beings." And I would like to share this as well. This is Baba talking about service. That is real service, where there is no thought of self at all. Selfless service may not only bring you to the foot of that mystical mountain whose summit is self-realization, but it may enable you to climb far on the path. Finally, it may bring you in contact with the perfect master and cause you to surrender to him. True karma, service, means the rendering of service to others without any thought of gain or reward, and also without the least intention of putting others under an obligation. Never think that by helping another, you have put him under any obligation to you. On the contrary, believe that the recipient of your generosity gives you an opportunity to serve yourself. So once again, welcome. We're very excited to do this presentation for you and how today, or this next hour, is going to run. First, we're going to hear from Bob Ahrens, who will guide us through Dr. Goher's legacy. And then we'll hear a few short stories about patients of the dispensary. And then Charles Haynes will share a few closing words with us, and that's it. And you can go on about your beautiful Baba day. Yes, and ignore the breakout room invite. Okay. If you have any questions, you are obviously muted right now, so hold on to them. And after Charles speaks, we will have a Q&A. We will open up the, we will undo the mute, and we'll have a short Q&A. Any questions about the dispensary or anything you heard today? So keep that in mind. A Q&A will happen at the end. That is it from me. Let's get to the good stuff. Charles, may I ask you kindly to please introduce our speaker, Bob? Is he unmuted?
Thanks, Sean, and thanks for helping to organize this. And I've already, before we began, told Angela how much I deeply appreciate, and I'm sure we all do, her great work in making this happen, and Ruthie for her expertise. So it's been a wonderful collaboration of Baba's close people to bring us all together. I was going to joke that I was asked to introduce Bob because nobody else would do it, but I think this is a serious gathering, so I think I won't do that joke. And also because every time Bob introduces me, he's always so kind and polite. And I don't want to spoil that for my next introduction. But J. Bob, everybody. And it is a wonderful, wonderful pleasure to introduce my dear friend of so many years, Bob Ahrens. And he's going to, as Sean said, share with us his intimate knowledge of Dr. Goher's work at Meher Free Dispensary. Many of you know this, but Bob, of course, is a medical doctor himself. He's lived a life of love and service for beloved Baba for more than 50 years. And Bob worked very closely with Dr. Goher. He built a lasting and close relationship of love and trust with her. They collaborated together on so much. And through that collaboration, Bob had the great privilege, really wonderful privilege, of providing medical care to Baba's close Mandali at Meherazad for years and years. And he filled that role with such wholehearted dedication and skill. As Mani and Erich and others would tell you if they could today, how much he did to help support them in their medical care. Well, Bob, we are very grateful for your service to Baba and for being with us today to share your unique perspective on Dr. Goher and Meher Free Dispensary. So I'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Charles. I'll keep that in mind the next time, if there is a next time, if this pandemic is ever over. Anyway, I'm going to talk about Dr. Goher first. Most of you, I think, probably had met her, knew her in one way or another, or certainly know of her if you didn't have the opportunity to meet her. As one of the Mandali, she was a unique person, and as each of them were. She was Baba's physician, as well as the physician of the Mandali for many years. And essentially her whole life was given over to him. One of the characteristics, of course, of the Mandali is that they were so worn away in terms of the ego frills that Baba could use them in his work with almost no resistance. So that's the way Goher was, in her own unique way, while being a great human being also. She met Baba for the first time in 1922 at Manzili Mim. Her mother had taken her there from Quetta, which is now Pakistan, where she lived, to meet Baba. And that was the first time. Baba, of course, stayed with her family in Quetta starting in 1923 on a number of occasions, and ultimately advised the family to move urgently, which they eventually did. And soon after, there was the devastating earthquake in Quetta, which killed somewhere around 50,000 people and destroyed their part of town. At some point early on, Baba asked her mother, "How many children do you have?" And her mother answered, 7. And Baba said, "No, you don't have 7, you have 5. 2 belong to God." And at the time, her mother thought that meant, of course, that 2 were going to die, perhaps as children. But it became clear over time that what Baba meant was that 2 of her children were his, and that was Goher and her younger sister, Katie. Somewhere along the line, she got in her mind to be a physician, and strongly. Her parents were against this idea. They didn't want to spend the money, and after all, she was just a girl, right? So she'd get married and have a family, and that'd be that. But she had that strong desire. When they moved from Quetta, they moved to Ahmednagar. She graduated in 1935 from high school there, and they allowed her to go to a 2-year college in Bombay, which she did. And at the end, she came back to Ahmednagar and still strongly wanted to continue her studies. And they were completely against this. However, they got a call from Baba to come to Mehrabad to meet him, that is, her parents and Goher. And Baba asked there, the old Dharamshala, he asked her mother to tell Baba what was going on. And her mother said, you know, we don't have much money now. We want to spend it on the boys, right? Because the girls are just going to get married and have families, and so on and so forth. So Baba turned to Goher and said, "Are you determined to become a doctor?" And Goher said, "Yes, Baba. I don't care about starving and walking and all that. It makes no difference, but I don't know how I can do it if my parents don't support me." And Baba turned to her parents and said, "I will pay for her education. I will arrange for her housing. You are no longer her parents. I am taking over from now on, and I'll take care of it. So put it out of your mind." And Gohar said later that was one of the happiest moments of her life. all she wanted her whole life was to be with him. And of course, to be qualified to be a resident Mandali, ultimately, you have to have that deep desire, because at least externally, it's not easy. One funny thing about Goher is this was Baba's sign for Goher. And it's because Baba was staying in one of the ashrams somewhere, and Goher visited her in the late 30s, and she had flaming tonsillitis. So Baba sent her back to Bombay to have her tonsils out, and that became his sign for her afterwards, tonsils. In 1947, she'd completed her studies, and Baba said, "Come, bring all your luggage and all your medical stuff and stay with me." She couldn't have been happier. This is all she wanted. So she came, and she stayed with Baba throughout the rest of his life. And of course, she stayed at Mirzad until the very end. She was, soon after she joined him, the new life came up. And of course, they found out that only 4 women would be allowed to go with Baba on the new life. And she thought she would not be one of them since she was a latecomer. But Baba chose her in a beautiful scene, which she relates in various ways. So she went with him on the new life. She went with him and the new life women to the United States. She was in the trailing car when Baba had his accident near Prague, Oklahoma. And she was in the trailing car. That hurt her feelings because the other New Life women were with Baba in the front car. And Baba would tease her about that every day, that they'd stop, kind of, turn the screws a little bit. But when she came to the accident site, she realized why Baba had her in the trailing car, because she, as a physician then, was able to be the communicator to Dr. Burleson at the little clinic where they were taken, and communicate also then to Baba and the Mandali, and help with that situation, help Baba in that situation. So she realized that at that time. She was in 1956 when Baba had that accident. He almost fully recovered from the 52 accident. In 56, when Vishnu arrived in a car they'd flagged down with Baba after the accident to to Satara, where the women were staying, he got out of the car calling for Goher. And Goher, of course, went and treated with Baba as best she could, went to the hospital with him, went into the OR operating room with him. And his tongue had almost been lacerated. He had that stitched up in facial stitches without anesthesia. And he squeezed her hand and indicated that if it looked like he was going to make a sound, she should squeeze his hand even more. That was her life with Baba. After that accident, his health never improved. It got worse and worse with multiple problems, including, of course, this smashed right hip joint. Goher was there immersed in his suffering. Of course, all of them saw the suffering and how hard it was on them to see Baba suffering, but she also had the responsibility to alleviate his suffering. And oftentimes she felt frustrated that she couldn't do anything. And Baba told her many times, "This is my work. There's nothing you can do, but you must try." At one point, she was giving him an injection, and in a flash, she remembered what he had said about the other avatars' deaths. And after he had described to her how the way that the other avatars died, he said, "And I will be turned into mincemeat." And at that moment, as she was about to give this injection, she thought, is that my role in life, to turn Baba into mincemeat? And that's the way she felt about all of this. So she stood by, but all of this was all of this was nothing compared to being with him and doing what she could to help him. That's what mattered to her. When Baba dropped his body, incidentally, no one expected it, even though he was having difficult times, really difficult times. And one thing I should mention is that Goher worked in isolation in terms of medicine. It was rare that Baba allowed a consultant to come in or even have x-rays or labs. And in fact, on January 30th, a consultant who had seen Baba a number of times came to see him. And he went in to see Baba. Baba had been having these horrible spasms of his whole body. And Baba gave him a discourse, you know, it was fine for an hour. And when the doctor came out, he looked at Goher and said, "This is all in your imagination. I was in there, you know, for an hour and nothing happened." And this was typical of the kind of humiliation that you or I would probably feel, but that Goher was willing and happy to do if she could help Baba in his suffering. Of course, Baba passed away the next day. After he passed away, Goher was disgusted with the idea of medicine and gathered her medicines and gave them away to a local hospital and declared that she would never practice again. However, the local people knew that there was a doctor there. Baba had occasionally sent her to tough cases in the village or in the countryside to help with. And they started coming. And several of the Mandali, particularly Mera and Mani and Erich, said, "Why don't you start a little clinic here and you can help people that way." And eventually she said, okay. So all of the Mandali kicked in to get the money together for starting this little clinic. They used their beneficiary money. That is, they were now beneficiaries of the trust in Baba's will and received some amount every month. And they pooled their money so that they could stock one of the rooms at Merazad. They started off right next to Mandali Hall, and then they moved up to the end rooms of the veranda, which were Kakabaria's rooms. He had died within a month, Baba's dying. And his rooms had running water, which none of the other rooms on the men's side had, so it was perfect for her. So she worked there and gradually saw more and more villagers and people from around that area, assisted by Mani or Erich in the clinic. And then when the Westerners particularly, but pilgrims started coming to visit, and the numbers started rising in the mid-70s, she was concerned that these sick people were mixing basically in the same area as the pilgrims. So she spoke with Arnavas, who had moved to Merazad in '74 and actually owned Merazad since the New Life. And they agreed to build a freestanding clinic dispensary there at Merazad. The original room Goher referred to as Schweitzer's clinic. But this new freestanding building she called Meher Free Dispensary. And she worked there basically for the rest of her life until she was unable to work there anymore. Many of us, including myself, worked there with her as lucky volunteers and were inspired by her example of service to what medicine truly is. One of the last things she did was go to a ceremony laying the foundation stone of a new building a little to the east of Merazad, because they'd simply run out of room in the building at Merazad. There were so many people who were coming to this free clinic to receive great care that was done in such a loving way. So she attended that, and that building was built and is the present Meher Free Dispensary building. I wanted to show some photos before I finish, and hopefully I can do this. Let's see here. Can you all see that? This is one of 5 tiny photos that Baba gave to Goher during the first few years that after she came to Mirzad. And he said, put these somewhere safe and keep them with you and carry them wherever you go. So she did. She put them in a little leather case, and she carried them on the new life to the United States and kept them with her throughout her life until in the 90s at some point, probably late 90s, she came over to me. I was staying at Mirzad at the time, and she said, these have been with me through all my travels, but my travels are over. But your travels still lie ahead of you. And she gave me this packet of photos that Baba had given her. These are the 5 photos. That tree the Baba is leaning against is a peepal tree. He had planted that tree in 1930. This is a rare photo of Baba in the Seclusion hut on Seclusion Hill. You can see the reservoir in the background there. This is in 1947. And that's the railing coming down from the Seclusion hut. And that's Mera peeking in on the side. Now this photo is from 1923. It's at the marriage of Freni and Rustam. Rustam was Adike Irani's older brother and Freni Mera's older sister. One of their children was Meru. And this was at their wedding. This little girl over here is Goher, and this little girl over here is Mani. Cute. Here's Goher over here in the middle. Actually, a very similar sari to one that Rainey showed earlier. This is during medical school. That's her class and a few professors. Now we're jumping ahead to the 60s. This is at Guru Prasad. Goher is going to attend to Baba as he comes out of a darshan program with Erich. You can see the sweat. Again, Guru Prasad, beautiful marble. This is during the 7 days that Baba's body lay in state in the Samadhi. This is in the tin cabin. Mani and Goher are sitting next to the stretcher that had carried Baba's body to Mehrabad from Mirzad. This is the Schweitzer Clinic, little room. That's the Meher Free Dispensary, the first building. It's about 1979. This is in the Meher Free Dispensary in 1979. That's Katie on the left, and of course, Goher treating patients. Pendu worked there also. He checked patients in and gave them a chit, which was had a number on it so that they could get registered. There was a tiny charge, and still is, for the chit. It was something like 5 annas at the time, which is essentially nothing, just so that it wasn't free because of the psychological. That's me with Goher and Katie, 79, treating a child. This is her and her famous bicycle. She rode a bicycle pretty much everywhere she went at Mirzad. Even when she was called by Baba in Mandali Hall, she would actually ride in the back door and right up to his chair. And they had a hard time finding a bike that she was a small woman, that she could still sit on the saddle and put her feet down. But Marwan Jasawala did it. This is that sari, Rainey, that you had shown earlier. this is the 4, of course, New Life women much later, mid-80s probably. 1998. Such a beautiful woman. This is in the Samadhi with her hair down. I mean, emotionally, how much she went through. I think Patty Thorne took this photo. Now. And this is the pyre of Dr. Goher. You can see me and Shelley through the flames. In the middle is the new and present Meher Free Dispensary building. That's from a shot taken from Seclusion Hill. That's a little closer. And there it is from the front. I'm going to end my part with a quote from Baba in this photo, of course, that was given to Goher. When the word of my love, this quote incidentally is on the wall in Mandali Hall at Marazad. When the word of my love breaks out of its silence and speaks in your hearts, telling you who I really am, you will know that that is the real word you have been always longing to hear. Jai Baba. Thank you. I'm going to turn this over now to someone.
Jumpshed, jump in there.
Hey, Jai Baba, everybody. This is Jumpshed Mystery. We'll now be sharing a few stories of the patients who have benefited from the loving care of the Meher Free Dispensary. Lata Suresh Tatir lives in a village about 40 miles from the Meher Free Dispensary. She has a daughter, a son, and a husband named Suresh. Lata has suffered from rheumatoid arthritis since May 2009. Her husband first took her to a specialist in Aurangabad, but she had no relief for her pain. Then he took her to an Ayurvedic doctor in Ahmednagar. The Ayurvedic medicine made her feel better, but after 3 or 4 months, the doctor moved to another state, and Lata's pain began to worsen. Her husband took her to a number of specialists, but each time the medicine gave her only temporary relief. The family spent a substantial amount on treatments, and Lata's husband had to take out a loan from the bank to cover the expense. One day, one of the Meher Free Dispensary patients from the village suggested she go to the dispensary. Heeding that advice, her family first brought her to the Meher Free Dispensary in May of 2015. Lata was seen by Dr. Paintaker, who treated her with both Ayurvedic and allopathic medicines. She began to feel a little bit better in the first month. After continued visits, her husband began bringing her to the Meher Free Dispensary regularly, and things started to get much better, and she started to feel much relief from the dispensary treatments, and she has now been able to stand up on her own. Her family is very happy, and Lata is feeling better day by day. And because of the Meher Free Dispensary and the fact that they do not charge for their services, Lata and her husband do not face progressive debt and can focus on their family. I'll now turn it over to Marnie, who will share the story of Sandeep.
Jai Baba, everybody. It's really great to be here and share with you about the dispensary. I'm going to talk to you about Sandeep, who is now 17. So he is older than in this picture, but his story is one that's quite heartwarming. He was born with a rare blood disease, which requires monthly transfusions and regular medical attention. He is now 17, and the Meher Free Dispensary has been his primary source of treatment throughout all of these years. In situations when he needed care beyond the capacity of the Meher Free Dispensary, he went to hospitals or specialists, and the dispensary provided financial assistance to cover these costs. As Jamshed explained in his description of the previous patient, it was a terrible financial burden to the family. So for the Meher Free Dispensary to be covering the costs for Sandeep's care when the dispensary couldn't provide it was a huge support for his family. Sandeep, now 17, says that his disease does not interfere with his daily life, and he is cheerful and has energy and enthusiasm, which he directs to his volunteer work at the clinic. After finishing 10th grade, he spent a month and a half of his summer vacation volunteering full-time at the dispensary. He says, "The Meher Free Dispensary has helped me so much in my life that I want to give something back. Volunteering here is the way I can do it." When asked about his post-high school plans, Sandeep replied, "I hope to become full-time staff working here at Meher Free Dispensary." He is certainly on the right track, and we are most fortunate to have him at the Meher Free Dispensary community. Thank you.
Jai Baba. I'm going to share a very inspiring story about a woman named Vijaya Anawade. At the time that the story was recorded, she was 41 years old and lives in Bingar, which is about 12 kilometers or 20 miles from the Meher Free Dispensary. 2 years ago, Vijaya's husband passed away, leaving her as the sole provider and single mother to her only son. Vijaya suffers from very bad chronic asthma and had visited many treatment centers and hospitals and clinics, but never received relief, and she couldn't afford the treatments or the medicine. And then one day, Vijaya's life changed. A friend of hers recommended that she go to the Meher Free Dispensary. And so Vijaya went and received absolutely free medical treatment and medicine, receiving tremendous relief for her asthma, and was able to work harder to provide for her and her son, working 7 days a week at every day in a different person's household from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., cleaning pots and clothes and various things. And as such, earned enough money to be able to afford her and her son's rent. And not only that, she was able to send her son to college at the engineering school in Pune, where she was able to provide 3,000 rupees a month for his hostel and 9,000 rupees a year for his admission fees. And without fail, Vijaya visits the Meher Free Dispensary every month and credits it for changing her life and her son's life.
As we close, those stories were so beautiful. I'm still absorbing, hearing them again, and how touching it is that Baba is helping so many people in these ways that, through this love at the clinic and this care. I also feel that we're gathered today at a time, we should acknowledge that we're gathered today at a time when many, many thousands of people in India are suffering tremendous pain and death and devastation because of the pandemic, and hospitals are overwhelmed. There's not enough oxygen. People are dying in the parking lots. So I wanted just to say, acknowledge that and send love, Baba's love to them, and have us all commend all those who are suffering to Baba in India, across India today. It's just a terrible moment. As we close, I thought I would share with you my origin story with Meher Free Dispensary, because I think it speaks to all that we've heard. And forgive me if you've heard my origin story before, but I wanted to share because it brings home something of Dr. Goher that I experienced. It must have been in the late 70s or early 80s. I'm not sure which visit to India. But each time I visited, so they all were similar. Each time I visited, of course, I would take the opportunity to visit the clinic, to see Dr. Goher in action. And of course, Dear Pindu, sitting outside, as Bob said, signing people in, which gave him a sense of purpose and gave him a job, and he was very dedicated to it, and it meant so much to him. And then to see Dr. Goher working with patients, and she was so kind to invite me and show me around, introduce me to some of the patients, let me observe what she was doing. Such compassion, so gentle. She's the most gentle soul I think I have ever known, and so loving. And as I walked, it just kept coming to me. This is what she learned from caring for beloved Baba's body, This is what she learned. She learned to be loving, compassionate to each one, as though Baba had arrived at the clinic. That's how I felt. As though Baba was there in each patient. And that's what the feeling was. And her care. And her care was, to me, was such that she did her best, but then left it to Baba. In other words, after caring for Baba all those years and having to give up any attachment to results, she was that way. She was non-attached, but deeply concerned for each person who came into the clinic. It was really an extraordinary thing to witness. And many of you, of course, witnessed this and worked with her, so you know even more about this than I do. So after one of those times, being with her, we were standing outside the clinic, and it just came into my mind to say, Dr. Goher, how can we help? How can those of us in the West, how can we help support this? Can we raise funds for this, this great work? And she looked at me and said, no, sweet, not now. Sometime in the future, Baba will let you know. Now, I didn't, of course, know at the time. Bob has described how the Mondley chipped in to give part of their trust benefit to this, but I also found out that Mani was able to do a lot for the clinic through her bequest from the Hayman estate. I mean, she was a beneficiary of the Hayman estate that Baba set up. And so at the time, there were funds available to that. And of course, Mani and Erich and others didn't want to take away focus at that time from what they were doing at the trust. So she said, sometime in the future, Baba will let you know. So it was some years later that Bob Ahrens came to me and said, will you serve on the board of Meher Fund? And, our sole purpose is simply to raise support for Meher Free Dispensary. When he said that, I thought, well, maybe Dr. Goher meant Bob will let you know. because it was then that the sort of light bulb went off. Said, well, yeah, this is something I should do now. I mean, I had put it out of my mind after talking to Goher, and now here is Bob saying, you should do this. But I told him, well, I don't really know anything about fundraising. It's not something I think I can do very well, and so forth and so on. And Bob stopped me and he said, I'm paraphrasing. He said, it's not really about fundraising, as so much about fundraising. It's about giving people an opportunity to participate in Baba's work at the clinic. That's what it is. And he was right. That's what it's turned out to be all these years of being involved in Meher Fund. We simply let people know about Meher Free Dispensary, especially in Baba's family, and hearts respond. It's not like raising money. Hearts respond because of what they see and know of Baba's legacy and Goher's legacy at the clinic. So that's why Christopher and I support Meher Free Dispensary. Of course, it's a remarkable charity, just putting aside anything else. I mean, a clinic that provides excellent, free healthcare to thousands of underserved villagers every year, by any measure, is an extraordinary place. What a great charity to support, you could say. But that's not the only reason, or maybe not even the primary reason, because there are many such wonderful places in India and in the United States deserving of our support. So that's not the only reason that we support the clinic. It's because we feel, like many of you do, that beloved Baba is working through Meher Free Dispensary in ways that serve his universal work. We can't say exactly what that is, of course, but we feel it. We feel it through the stories. We feel it through the love with which people are treated there. We feel it through Dr. Goher and her legacy. And as Bob shared with us, it was Baba who inspired Dr. Goher to open the clinic with the encouragement of Mandali people. It was Baba who actually trained her to be that compassionate person, doctor that she was. And it was Dr. Goher who in turn trained others to carry out Baba's work in ways that would reflect Baba's love, the beloved's love for each and every patient that comes through the door. That's why I was told one of my trips in India that the nickname in the village for Meher Free Dispensary, God's Clinic. God's Clinic. So Christopher and I are very, very grateful at Meher Free Dispensary. And if you feel as we do, and I know many of you do, that same way, then we invite you to by supporting Meher Baba's work at Meher Free Dispensary. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone who spoke today. Bob, Marnie, Jamshed, Mara. So we're gonna open up to a Q&A. Since we have so many Baba lovers here today, we are not gonna unmute everybody like I originally said. We're gonna organize this just a little bit, and we're gonna do some hand raising. And those who do not know how to do this, if you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a tab that says reactions. And this is on PCs. If you click reactions, you'll see raise hand. So raise your hand and I will call upon you and unmute you in the order with which you raised your hand. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. I'll unmute you and we'll go from there.
If you feel so inspired, you can go to our website, Meher Fund website, and it's clear there where you can donate. And it's Meher Fund .org, I think, isn't it?
Mhm. That is-
We'll post the website. I think it's Meher Fund.
chat.
Yeah,
Thank
that's right. So meherfund.org. And of course, many of you are loving and generous supporters of the Meher Free Dispensary. So you're veterans at this. But in case this is a new opportunity in your life, that's how you would do it.
Yes. You know, through my PayPal, I have it linked up to the Meher Fund, so it just does it every month and I don't have to think about it. It's kind of great. Oh, we have a question. Oh, on the phone. Fred, there you go.
Yes, I just want to describe an experience I had. My first trip to India in 1971. I went to Mara's porch, and I was brought there by somebody, and then Mara came out, and I prostrated myself before her, and she got quite emotional. She says, "Oh, no, no, only for beloved Baba." And then I felt this warm hand on my neck, and who it was Goher. And she says, "Fred, we know you're new. You don't know any better." So I never forget that touch of Goher on my neck. And then of course, I went to that dispensary that was described earlier, and some of the experiences I had. That was 1971.
Thank you for sharing. Rainy?
Hi, I'm on the old computer. I hope you can hear me. For people that were not here earlier, Bob mentioned Dr. Goher in her beautiful sari that was her mother's sari. In actual fact, this sari is silk chiffon, not made in this quality much anymore. And the Chinese embroidery that the Parsis handed down through generations, even if they cut it off the sari, is also silk. And so Goher knew that my family had in their past a lot to do with textiles and gave it to me. And it seems to be coming up on camera quite beautifully. And the silk embroidery. And it lives here in Berkeley until in my bequeath things, it will go back to Meherabad. And we take it to meetings. It's been at NBCNC a lot at meetings and at the Talbots at meetings. And it's sort of, I don't know why it's here, but it's here. But what I wanted to talk about was a Dr. Goher. You know, I didn't know anything about medicine at all, but she always would refer me to Padri for my problems. So all my problems went to Padri. But when I had Frainietta, who has trisomy 21, an extra chromosome, I arrived in India on the same day as Laura arrived with Dagmar, the very same day we'd only ever spoken on the phone. We did not know we were going at the same time. We both showed up in Artie's office at the same time with our two little trisomy 21 daughters. Laura is 3 years younger than Franny. I suppose she's 37 now, and Franny is 40 years old, which means we're all 110, I guess. She's 40 years old now. But anyway, Goher took a tremendous amount of time and interest in this subject because it's 1 in 500 live births, even to this day, no matter what they did to stop it. It's an important statistic in Baba's work, I suppose. And she took a lot of time to find out all of the information. I bonded through medical information and as a case manager / mother / whatever. And Dagmar bonded through a lot of new age treatments and so on. So she wanted to know everything we had learned as medical case managers of this trisomy 21, called after Dr. Down. I wish he'd been Dr. Up, but anyway, it was Dr. Down syndrome. And just the tenderness and the understanding, because as soon as we have a child like this who's marked, we experience tremendous discrimination. It's looking away, or you poor thing, and people sending you books about Down syndrome, and all the things that to try and be loving, but can be really upsetting. She didn't have any of that. She was completely tender and curious, incredible curiosity. It was huge about this subject. And it meant that when Franny was 7 and Laura was 4, and we arrived with them in 1987, it opened up. It was a lot of people there that year, in that September 21st. And it opened everyone in our barber world up to Down syndrome on such a big level. It was very, very interesting on hindsight. And of course, over the years, we met a boy from Allura and his family, and it helped other people in different cultures that might not see it so well bond, and the entire group of barber lovers all bond even more closely with the subject of, and the people of trisomy 21 and their differences and their and everything else. You know, they're all not just loving little souls, they're completely unique. And so it was all through Dr. Goher that people would come in closer instead of staying away and bond with this unusual new thing to Dr. Goher. I mean, a new way of looking at something I'm sure she'd seen quite a bit before. Jai Baba.
Jay Baba, thank you so much.
One thing I didn't mention that's sort of interesting is in 2004, this is a few months before Goher died, I asked her if there was anything we could do regarding the dispensary. And she said, yes, see if you can get Meher Fund to, which had been, as a US nonprofit, had been in existence for a while and had a number of different Baba charities, I guess you would say, things that it was contributing toward. And she said, can see if they're willing to focus entirely on Meher Free Dispensary. So I said, okay. And by the end of the year, the mayor, this is in 2004, Meher Fund focused entirely on Meher Free Dispensary, and it's been that way ever since.
Just to add to that, that Bob's leadership made that happen. It was extraordinary. And that's about when I came on the board. It was extraordinary, you know, that shift to just one pointed focus. And Don Stevens had originally donated money to set up Meher Fund. And that's another way I want to just add this, that all expenses that the board, and you know, we don't have many, but you know, any expenses that we may have as a board come out of that money, little endowment that we've kept, that we give it, we gave most of it to the dispensary and we keep giving it. So that that money has gone down and down because we want it to go to the dispensary. But what is there, the small little thing that's still there, that interest from that pays all any and all board expenses and or credit card, you know, whatever it is. And that's to say that we wanted to make a commitment that anybody who gave to Meher Free Dispensary, 100% would go directly to the dispensary. There would be no overhead, no hidden costs. And I just feel that that commitment has made this a very special mission, giving Baba lovers an opportunity to give right to the clinic and know that it's all going to go for this work that Dr. Goher started.
So Bob, Charles, I have a question. Is the Meher Fund a good place to send funds for the current COVID crisis in Meherabad? Do we know?
In Meherabad?
Or Meherzad?
I mean, the Meher Free Dispensary has kept in operation throughout the pandemic. It's taken pandemic precautions, and it's not able to see the numbers that it had been seeing up to the moment of the pandemic, but it's maintaining the safety of all employees, and it's operating, and the costs are still there. So it's a great place for that. As we all know, as Charles mentioned, India's undergoing a pretty bad time right now, and that applies to the areas around Mirazad and the Meher Free Dispensary as well as Mehrabad.
I mean, Sean, the dispensary, of course, is not a hospital. So the hospital, you know, where people go when they need the respirators and so forth and so on, those are overwhelmed. But having, and what Bob just said is important, because having the clinic still open, because many people can't get in the hospital for anything, right? And, you know, like here, we had a time when hospitals were not doing things that they ordinarily did because they were overwhelmed. Same is true there. So in other words, to have that health care for others who, you know, need it during this time is really important. So in that way, our support helps in this crisis. It is obviously not the same as helping some NGO or others that may be sending oxygen to hospitals. I don't know. I'm sure people are doing that. But it is helping give people health care who might not be able to get it otherwise during the crisis.
And also hope.
Yeah.
It's still there for that.
Karen had a question. Let me unmute you. Karen's on the board. Oh, you gotta accept them, unmute.
I just wanted to piggyback a little bit about what's happening at the dispensary during the pandemic and just share a little bit more that Falu has truly been the person who's been overseeing the clinic during this time. There has never really been a time when they've stopped caring for the villagers, but they've had mask wearing. People are sitting 6 feet apart, entering, and medications are being dropped to the patients through the window. So yeah, it's really continued without stopping, maybe for 1 or 2 days, but absolutely continuing. And it's a real pleasure to visit the dispensary. So if any of you, when travel starts up again, find yourselves at Mirazad, ask to go and visit, because that really brings things home. Jai Baba, everyone.
I see that Marie asked about what she calls FUN raising, which I love, and printed material. I think we still have those. We printed some brochures. You know, it's been a while since we've had in-person events to gather support for that, but I'm sure we still have them, and would be glad to make them available to anyone who wants some of those printed materials to give to people they know. The way it's done is through, of course, individuals who some members of the board contact and, you know, are regular supporters, but it's also, we have events around the country and Baba lovers come, and some of the events have been for non-Baba lovers as well, who may be interested in supporting the clinic. So it's been both. And we did print a brochure to give at those events. And of course, anyone who wants to have some to give to people, Karen, I think we would be happy to do that. I see your hand up.
Yeah. I have many copies of the brochure, and I will put my email address on the chat, and anyone that wishes to request, you can even request more than one, because I have ample of them. Jai Baba.
We are at the conclusion of our program, and I thought it would be nice if whoever would like to join, we'll just close out with the Beloved God prayer. So give everybody a second to unmute. Seems like there's a good enough, okay. Beloved God.
Lovely God.
Help
us
all.
Love you.
Love
More
you
more and
more
and
more
more.
more.
Still yet more.
Yeah.
In union with you.
We become worthy
Help us all.
union with you.
Hold fast. Vamos Dhamma. Till
Promise
the very
common till the
Avtar
very
Mihin
end.
Avtar Mihin Baba Ki Jai. Amin Baba Ki Jai.
Gohar, Meher Baba. Hey,
Wendy has her hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Wendy. You're the medico.
I just wanted to share a Goher story. Uh, One year I wasn't well in India, and Dr. Goher at that time was much older, not able to come, but she said to me she had wished she would be able to come to Meherbad to take care of me. And anyway, she gave me a beautiful little picture that I have in our bedroom. I see it every day. But being a Canadian and our winter's cold, I couldn't have been more delighted than to get Dr. Goher's winter hat.
Oh,
You know, if you can see it or not. Some of you may recognize it, maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, I just wanted to share it with everybody. You put it on and it's like, oh, I can just feel her warm, such gentle, soft hands. Anyway, Jai Baba, just wanted to share that.
Baba.
Lovely.
Thank you, Wendy. That's a beautiful hat.
I know, it's so, and it's warm, really warm. For so many reasons.
Mhm.
You wear the hat and I'll wear the sari.
Okay. All right, let's do it.
Woohoo!
There we go. Ta-da!
Sisters.
Somebody's got a name.
Devoted sisters.
Somebody has a name.
Very nice.
What did you say, Alan?
I said someone used to be here. I don't know if she's still there. And wasn't it? Yes, someone has a name after Goher.
Oh yeah, Goher's here.
That is the story. That is the best story.
Jai Baba, everyone. Some of you may have heard my story already, but anyway, Alan wants me to repeat it, so here I go. To give you a little background, if you haven't met me or know my story, my father, Minu Kharas, was an avid, fervent lover of Baba since 1932 when he first met Baba in Nasik. And ever since then, having met his goal, which was, his life search for God, he completely devoted his life to Baba. And from then onwards, everything that happened in his life, or if he needed to ask Baba anything that would happen, would always be with Baba's permission. So fast forward to in the late 40s, when he met my mother, Freni, who was Kekashru Patel's daughter in Karachi. And they met through Pilamai Irani, who is Baba's spiritual sister, who also lived in Karachi. And so my father met the family and subsequently my mother. They fell in love, get married with Baba's permission. And in February of 1954, this was on Valentine's Day, they got married. And 9 months later, yours truly makes her appearance, and I was born, and that was in Karachi in 1954. Well, at that time, the country was divided. Of course, we were in Pakistan, Baba was in India. So as per my father's, normal routine, habit, whatever, he sends off a telegram right away saying, we have a baby girl daughter, and we would like you to name her. Baba was in Satara at this time, and he was in a period of strict seclusion. So no correspondence was brought to his attention at that time. Everything that came in was just kept aside. The only stipulation was that if somebody close to him passed away, then that information was to be brought to him right away. Well, so this was December of 54 when I came along, and this had happened. And of course, the months went by, the days went by, no response, nothing. And so I was nameless. So even on my birth certificate, it said baby Kharas. My mother's family was all up in arms. What is this nonsense? You're not naming her, whatever. But Dad said, no, if anybody's going to name my daughter, it's going to come from Baba. And so he will do so in his good time. Well, the months went by. As it turned out, 5 months went by and I was without a name. But then subsequently what happened was my dad's cousin, Adi Dubash, which I'm sure a lot of you know, they lived right behind our house. And Adi and Rhoda had 2 sons, Mirwan and Homi. And Homi was the younger of the 2. He was only 4 years old. And at that time, he very tragically fell from a 2nd-story window and died of head trauma. So when news of Homi's death reached Baba in Satara, all the collected, he came out of seclusion briefly at that time, and all the collected correspondence was then brought to his attention. Among them, of course, my father's letter. So he called his women mandali in, and he looked at Meera first, and he said, now, we've given your name too many times. You know, we have named many people after you. So no, Meera. Then he looked at Mani, and he said, same thing. So we've given your name as well. And of course, third in line was Dr. Goher. So he looks at her and he says, well, what do you think? Should we give your name? And Dr. Goher said, Baba, your wish. So Baba says, done. So that day, we get a letter from Erech written, and which I still have in my possession, one of my treasured possessions, of course, saying that today Baba has named your daughter Gohar, into parentheses Jewel, which is the meaning of the word Gohar in the Persian language. And hence I was named after my sweet namesake. So that's my little story. And then 5 months later, I think, no, it was about end of September, I think, end of September 54, when Baba had called a very intimate meeting with his intimate circle of Mandali, and my father had gone as well. So Dad took my little baby picture when I was about 6 months old, and I was formally introduced to Baba at that point. So Baba took the picture in his hand and he gently rocked me. So, so that is my little Goher, Dr. Goher story. So very, very blessed.
Goher, that is such a beautiful story, and I'm so glad, Alan.
Yeah. Yes.
Because
over the years, I've had I've maintained contact with my sweet namesake, and I have treasured little notes and letters from her as well. So yeah. And I think in the Baba world, in the Baba world, I'm the only Gohar named after her, right? I haven't heard of any others. There are lots of Mehras, and there are lots.
Oh, you're blessed.
Yeah. So, Baba.
Can I go here? I want to add that your father, Minu, was a giant.
Thank you.
in his service and his love, so important. And you know, we don't. And with all that happens and all the history and all that, sometimes these individuals who were so key in Baba's work are not as remembered as they should be, in my view. But Minu was a giant, and such a wholehearted for Baba.
Absolutely.
And the reason I am sharing this with you is in 1962, when we went to the East-West Gathering, Minu and my mother bonded deeply.
Yes, very much.
Yeah, so they became really close friends.
Yes.
And Mother just loved your father, thought he was just so special. And he would tell us, therefore, so many experiences that he had had with Baba. And I was very fortunate to be in that room and hear. So I got that opportunity to experience his great love for Baba, his closeness, his wholehearted dedication. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you, and I'm so happy that you shared your story today.
Beautiful.
I just want to add a little note, because about your father, because I see his face in your face. This is from the vantage point of a little 7-year-old.
Oh, okay.
When on my very first trip to India, he became my good friend. And every day when I would come back from Marazad and come to Mehrabad, he would take my braid and pretend to cut it. And he'd say, oh, I'm going to cut your braid. And I was so upset about this because Erich had braided my hair. And I would sit on Erich's lap and he'd say, this is how I used to braid Baba's hair.
Oh my Lord.
So I would always say no. So I have very fond, sweet memories. And it's really lovely to see her.
What year was this, Mira?
That was 88.
88. Okay. Yeah. That was one of his last trips to Mehrabad.
Oh, wow.
No, wait. Did you say 88?
Am I thinking of the wrong Minu?
Yes, I think so. I think so because Dad passed away in 84. So
I was afraid that might happen, but your face looks.
Oh, okay.
Well,
do you know his last name?
Dad.
Okay.
Minu Barucha.
Are you thinking of Minu Barucha by any chance?
I don't know now. Maybe it was. Yeah.
My dad was Minu Karas, right?
Oh.
Well, but a sweet story anyway.
So it's there. A wonderful book presented at the Glow's 50th anniversary in 2016. So that book is there, and a wonderful story of her pop and his devotion to Baba. And if you haven't read it.
What book is that, Alan? Tell us again.
God Seeker.
The God Seeker.
The God Seeker, yes.
Yeah. Put it one ahead of Charles's latest book.
What's that?
Put that read one ahead of Charles's latest book.
No, my latest book is not out yet.
Well, just put it ahead of that book.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is, what ahead.
You can read it now so that when my book comes out, you'll be ready.
There you go.
That may be.
Goher, you
Yes.
might think this is rather funny because of Goher meaning jewel, but I have pop-up shops of Baba jewelry makers in Australia and here and so on. And I have a company called Goher Gems.
Oh! That's wonderful. Yeah. Actually,
gems, if you know it's jewel gems, which is
that's wonderful. Right.
Goher was very amused that I was going to do this someday, and when it passed, I finally started having these pop-up shops selling off all this jewelry because I used to be a gemologist when I was
Isn't that wonderful?
And Goher,
yes,
you are, I'm sure, Baba would do this. You are a gem.
Oh.
You are a gem. So you're not just a jewel by name. You are a gem.
As long as I have Baba on my finger, that's all I need. Can you see this?
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only gem I need. That's right.
Well,
Maharaj sanskaras.
That's right. That's right. The word Gohar, I believe, means in the Persian language, is the name of a pearl that is found in the deepest part of the ocean.
Oh, in the depths of the ocean.
Yes, it's a very rare pearl, and the name of that pearl is Gohar, right? So, anyway.
None available anymore, I don't think.
And,
you are well named.
Oh.
Well, I'm still picturing Mara sitting on Erich's lap getting her hair braided. That's pretty cool, Mara.
It's very, very intimate. I found a miniature which I bought in Jaipur for a lot of money at the time, but it's Krishna braiding Radha's hair. So it is a tradition, actually, I believe, of hair being braided by avatars and perhaps their mandali. It's braiding hair goes down in all of the stories.
Beautiful.
Mara also, of course, braided Baba's hair and always liked when my hair was braided or in pigtails, in little braided pigtails as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mara told me not to cut Franny's hair to keep it braided. So I cut the split ends off because I asked, should I do that? And she said, be practical. So her hair's always braided.
Well, Wendy has her hand up. Go ahead, Wendy.
I have a question. I just want to be sure that I'm accurate with this. If anybody else knows the answer to this, did Dr. Goher sleep with the words for Amazing Grace under her pillow? Someone told me that once, and it's in my records, but I did not write down who told me. And I just wonder if anybody knows if that's fact or fiction. Anybody?
That's true. That's true.
That is true.
Okay. Yay.
Who said that's true?
Dana.
Dana.
Dana. Hi, Dana.
It's a Bob.
Thank you, Dana. Oh, if anybody would know, it'd be you, Dana. Thank you.
Wow.
I don't know if you remember seeing me at Marizad.
I certainly do.
Okay. Anyway, thank you so much. Now I can validate that.
Point in her life. I mean, it wasn't always, but in the later year, at least the later year, she did.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Dana. Thank you.
Yeah.
Fred, did you have something else? Oh, you're muted, honey.
In my early trips to India, the early 70s, I was ill and I went to Dr. Goher's little, I guess what, Dr. Schweitzer's clinic at Marizad. And I was treated, I guess, with the standard allopathic medicine. And I think she also had homeopathic treatments at that time. I know Padre was the person you were guided to. Does anybody remember that? Did she both treat you with a regular type of medicine or homeopathic?
Yeah, in 85, I received both.
Yeah, but I was 15 years old.
Oh, so she did. Yeah, I just wanted to know that because she was so calming person to be with. And I remember those days. Very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, I was fortunate. Before I went to India in 85, she needed little plastic bags for pills, to put pills in, a couple of pills or individual or whatever. And the hospital that I worked used them and just tossed them away. That you'd get like your medicine and you'd pour it for Mr. Jones and Mr. Smith, and you had two little plastic bags. So I started collecting them before I went in 85, and I came with a boatload of little plastic containers for pills. And then I got to inoculate children with Goher. She had me do the, what's it called? MDT for measles, diphtheria, and something. And so I would have to give them something in the mouth, and then I'd have to give them a shot. And there was only one Indian child that cried when I gave the shot. And when I gave the shot and the child started to cry, I was like, oh no, I got this look on my face like, oh no. And so the child looked at me and stopped crying. And it was like the child wanted to comfort me because I was sad because this little baby had gotten a shot and it hurt. So it was just amazing. I never saw that in the United States. People did not receive shots like that. Children did not receive shots without tears and a lot of faldera. But in India, it was just so sweet and so simple. I can't explain it, but it was just beautiful. So I was grateful for that. Goher was very kind to me, very loving, because I was a nurse and she appreciated what I had done, and it was very cool.
Made me remember something, and that is that we would bring medicines to India.
Yeah.
I was going to a doctor in Brisbane. I was very sick at one point, and I mentioned to him I was going to India. Should I go, being as sick as I was at the time, all female sort of problems? And he said, yes, but why are you going? And I told him, and he said, well, is there any medicine in this religion you belong to? And I said, yes, there is. And I told him all about Dr. Goher. He came in with a suitcase full of samples and said, please take this to this doctor and give her all my love and regards, or give her all my regards. So I trucked off with just a you know, a little bit of clothing in one side and all the samples. Well, turned out Dr. Goher said they were just the purest, most fantastic things. And every time, go to the doctor before you come here and bring these samples, which I started doing. And she learned about all these medications and everything through this kind doctor in Brisbane giving me these suitcases of samples. I never got busted either. That's amazing.
When I went to India in 1971, and we would be on the you know, in the Mandalay Hall in the morning, and sometime later on we would go over to Meher's porch. And, you know, that was my first trip, and the women Mandalay were there on the porch. And, you know, and Goher was there, you know, they were so welcoming. But then I would notice that Goher would be there for a couple of weeks, and then she would be gone for a couple of weeks. And then she would return, and she would be there and her bright self, and then she would be gone. And at one point, I took one of the women Mandalay aside, and I said, "Where is Goher going? You know, is she going to relatives or something like that?" And I can't remember who it was, said that that she was in such grief that she couldn't come out and be seen publicly, you know. And so for certain periods, you know, she would just couldn't go out on the porch. And that, you know, I mean, she was Baba's doctor, and she felt that if she had done better, Baba would have been able to live longer. And she really took it deeply to heart. That's what was explained to me. And then, you know, sometime later, she opened, as you know, that little clinic, and or whatever I forgot the name of it, but and Marwan Mistry, who was a doctor, happened to be there, and he kind of convinced me to work in that little clinic. And you know, he trained me, and Dr. Goher trained me, and all that. But I mean, these were like major cases. You don't normally see someone so emaciated or so suffering from malnutrition, or all the major illnesses that we don't see in this country were just coming right in there. And this is like all new to me. But the thing that I dreaded most is they didn't have the modern day needles. They had these like glass needles that were heavy, and you had to, you know, there were tubes, and I'd have to like give shots, and it was, and sometimes I couldn't get through the skin of the villagers. You know, it was so tough. We'd have to sharpen the needles every few days so they'll be sharp enough to penetrate. And so on my way in the mornings to Meherzad, I would think, oh my God, I got to give those shots again. Anyway, but for years I would help out in the clinic. And then on one of my years, I on the airplane over, unbeknownst to me, I got paratyphoid. And it was traceable to the airplane, the water on the airplane. And I was so sick. I mean, I was at Vilus, and my temperature was up about 105, and I was like really delirious. I felt like I was on another planet. I mean, my mental state was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. But anyway, I'd been there for maybe a year, a week and a half. And then one day I kind of opened my eyes, and there is where I've been lying in bed, and there's Goher in front of me. And she came from Meherzad into the city, and she was asking me questions and everything. And at one point she put her hand on my forehead, and her hands were the softest, most nurturing hands I had ever felt. And the moment she put her hand, she just put her hand on my forehead, not any healing sort of she just natural, put it on my forehead. And from that moment, I began to heal from this whole thing. I mean, I could feel it. I mean, I came back from some other dark realm that I was in. So she was really, you know, the softest hands I have ever held, you know. There was something about those hands, and I don't know if the rest of you, I'm sure anybody who felt those hands knows exactly what I'm talking about, you know. So that was my early years there, working in the clinic with Pendu out front, taking the records and the names of people, and it was a beautiful time. So that's, and Nan, I think Nan
Yeah.
had something to say.
It's almost not the opposite. I came in 91 for the first time, and I came for 6 months, and everybody was saying, you know, of course you've got to work, and maybe you should work in the clinic. And I was sick for about 2 weeks. I finally made it to Merazad. I actually went to the circus with all the women modeling. So I'd met them all really briefly at this really funny circus in town. But then I got to meet them at Merazad. And Goher, I was out on the woman's porch, and Goher, you know, was just said something like, you don't need to do the medical thing. You're not into medicine. You don't need to do that. You'll find something to do. So that was like first reassurance. And she was totally right. It was the last thing in the world I wanted to do. I'm squeamish, you know, so it would have been really hard. And I did find lots to do. And then the second thing she said, and I, you know, very intuitively, she said, if you're not comfortable on the porch, don't feel bad. You can spend as much time as you want to in Mondley Hall. And I was totally uncomfortable on the porch. It felt like the thing I'd never known how to do, the girl thing, you know. It's like, you know, and I always wanted to be in Mondley Hall, and I didn't want to feel guilty about it. So she just gave me permission, which I accepted for the next 25 years, 28 years. So anyway, I'm very thankful. And I also, of course, felt on the first time that the softest of softest hands. So, but I'm very thankful to be seen so quickly, you know, by someone who's barely, you know, might have heard a little bit about you and learned your name, but that's it.
Reveal, scratch, and cash. Scan mark.
Beautiful. It's beautiful, Dan. Thank you. Well, I'm not, I can't control the hands anymore. So there are some hands up. I just don't know if anybody wanted to speak. Karen, your hand's up. Did you have something you wanted to say?
I just wanted to say that what I remembered was how Adele Wolkin would always look for people going to India because she just wanted to send as much as she could for Dr. Goher and for the clinic. And that aside from Ayurvedic, she also provided Ayurvedic medications in the clinic, as well as allopathic and anything else. And just to bring back Meher Free Dispensary to this time, they have Ayurvedic medications, allopathic medications, homeopathic medications. Some of you may remember Mike McDonald, who goes there and helps people homeopathically. And Falu has done a lot of landscaping around the dispensary. And one of the things he's been planting for many years now at this point are Ayurvedic bushes, shrubs, and trees. Hopefully that they'll be used for the dispensary in time, and maybe by now they are, I don't know. But I just wanted to share a few of those things. Jai Baba to everyone.
Jai Baba, Karen, thank you. And Wendy, your hand is still up too. I'm sorry, I can't, I'm not a co-host right now, so I can't lower hands. I didn't know if there was something else.
There wasn't until somebody was talking about medication, and Martin and I used to bring stuff over all the time, and my son-in-law works for Lufthansa, so oftentimes they would give us a free suitcase to be able to bring stuff over or things for the school. But I remember this one trip I was on my own, and I had all these medications. Well, most of them were vitamins and minerals, but I also had friends of ours who knew we went over and would give us their drugs that they didn't need anymore, like antibiotics and stuff. I mean, I think about it now and I go, oh my gosh. But anyway, so I'm going through customs there, as you all know, And all of a sudden I had this moment. I thought, oh my goodness, like I have a lot of money worth of things here. I'm by myself. And this one gentleman was looking at me like, you're next to be searched. And it was like, oh no, Baba, I need help here. And in my backpack, there were a package of almonds that we would get at Costco's, and we would munch on those in between flights. Anyway, he saw the almonds. I gave him the almonds, and zip, I was out of the airport. And it was like, thank you, Bob. But you think about all those times you did things, and oh my. But you almost got through, right? Thank you. Jai Baba.
Jai Meher Baba.
Hey, Baba.
Jai Baba. Thank you, Karen and Alan.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Ruthie.
all.
Jai Baba.
Jai
Jai
Baba.
Baba.
Thank you.
Jai Baba. Thank you,
Karen, I
Goher, for a
sent
great
you an
story.
email.
Ready?
What a great story, Goher.
Thank you, Jai Baba. I'm blessed.
It is.
I'm
We'll get her out one day.
Yeah.
Till this pandemic, we'll get her out.
Yeah. post-pandemic.
We
Can't
miss,
wait.
we
Will
miss.
do. Will do. By Baba's grace.
Jai Baba.
Right. Jai Baba, everyone.
Jai
Thank you.
Baba.